So in doing this, I want to show you what I got. I actually got, I've got a little bit more width than 12, because here's my, from this edge to this edge is 12. And so I've got a little bit more width than 12 up at the top. And that basically carries through all the way down. And I've got that area I repaired is underneath here. You can see it. That's why I like using these plastic mats. You can see right through them. So here's the area I repaired right here, and the area I repaired right here. So I'm not using much of it actually, but I'm glad I did it. Now if you had a pair of mitts or a hat pattern and you wanted to make sure that your mitt or hats fit on this, now this is the time that you lay your pattern out and get an idea. You either mark it on your paper beforehand, or you lay the paper pattern out on top to make sure that it fits, because once this dries, you're going to have to come back and either re-wet it if you're shy, or now is the time to loosen a staple and pull it a little tighter. But see how I'm over the edge here about 1/4 of an inch, maybe 1/2 an inch, not quite, on this side, and the same on the other side. So actually I got a little bit more width up here than I need, but maybe my other skin next to it is a little shallower. So I don't like to cut any of this off until I know what my layout is. And for layout, I number each one of my skins, usually down on the corner. And actually I did these, I think, up on the top. It doesn't matter. But I label them so I know which one goes where, and number them so I've got them in order. When I get this dry, I'm going to come back tomorrow and I'll use this same template and I'll lay it on here. And I'm going to mark my squaring line where I'm going to trim this. And we'll show you that next. But this will dry overnight. So I hope this gives you a good idea. My coyote pelts dried overnight, and before I take it off the board, what I do is I put my template on. And I previously put the template on and marked the lines, but you can see how easy this is when you have this plastic template. It's just perfect. So I took it all the way, started at the top, and had the center line, and then mark the rump across, mark the top across, and my sides. So when I did that repair on the sides here, this is how much I gained by putting that piece, fixing that piece on the width of that, on that side. And my line's a little light here, but likewise on this side, that's about how much I gained. Up here at the paws, this area right here is where I gained, because that's what I closed up from that front paw. And on this side, the same. So there's no void in there, so that'll be good. So now it's just to take it off. What's easy is if you do this with 2 layers of craft paper underneath, all you have to do to remove your skin is take a good hold of your, at the bottom, and the craft paper, and you lift it up at one time, and it just basically pops the whole thing off. And then, well, I could keep going, but I almost dropped my phone. So it's off. And then it's just to, I use a staple puller, staple lifter, and it's just to pick the staples out. So what I did, what I also do is now I mark on the bottom of this skin the length and width on the inside part here. So I've got that. Once I put my template on, I knew what the measurement was, so I'm going to come back and do that. So your coyote skin is all set. After you get the staples out, you can give it a good brush. And if you need to wet glaze it, wet glazing is you just take a spritz bottle with water and you brush the hairs all down from the top. And this one is pretty good. I don't think I'll need to do this one. Sometimes they get a little rumpled. But yeah, so this will be ready to set aside. I'm going to trim off the sides. When I get all the rest of them off the board, I took this one off earlier. And then we're going to set them up for how we're going to put them together. So I want to show you a little bit about sorting. So when I sort coyotes, it's a wild fur. It's natural. It's not something that's ranch raised like some of the fox and mink. So you're going to have a lot of color variations. What isn't a variation is like, or as big as a variation is if they come from the same region. So, but when you sort for your blanket or whatever you're doing, you try to get the same coloration going across and up and down as you can. And some are obviously a little bit more gold. Some are obviously a little bit more gray up at the top. But I start by laying out dark and try to get the lighter ones on the edge. And this is my reject pile, basically because they're either too one color or the other, or the one up on the top is a good color, but he's short. So anyway, you just kind of want to do it, and you flip-flop them around until you like what you like. In this case, it's where I had it all laid out. The client wanted it larger, so I had to add 2 more rows to the outside. I chose to do them on just one side of the blanket instead of both sides of the blanket. So I resorted from the center going that way on the blanket because I knew I kind of liked what my center was before to match the pelts on the other side. So I stand on like a little step ladder so I can get kind of like a good look from the top coming down. And whatever you need to do. Outside is awesome. If you can do this on a deck, I love doing it on a deck outside. But the weather isn't warm enough to do that today. So from this point, now you pin your rows together. I like to pin my rows together going across. And then I number the skins. This would be, I had 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is going to be 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 on row 2. So likewise for row 1, row 3, then you square them. Like some of these I haven't squared yet. I've just got them marked. Square them, and then you're going to join them up. So I've got my layout on this king-size Brit bed. And I've used 21 of the 39 pelts. The blue dots up at the top of the picture, the center one is like the center of the bed. The one on this side would be like the edge of a king-size mattress, so it's going to have like a 10-inch drop on both sides. So it's a 7 skins across and 3 rows down. And I'll, of course, trim everything once it gets sewed together, but this gives you a good idea of how it looks. I think the colors blend pretty well, so I'm happy with that. Well, I had the layout earlier, and then I pinned my rows together going across. So I pinned like all of row 1 going across together, so I could keep that together. All of row 2 going across, all of row 3 going across. But before I start sewing, what I like to do is, you can do this right after you cut it, but I like to do it so I don't forget just before I sew it, is you come over and you take your fur brush and you comb all of the loose hair out of your seams. Because what that's going to do is it's going to not trap that loose hair in your seam when you sew, and it will cause your stuff to your stuff won't shed as much. So get your edges all the way around, top and bottom, all combed out. Now, when I did my row and I pinned it across, I also marked the back of my skin as to how I was going to use it. So this is row 1, skin number 6, and I'm joining it to skin 7, going higher on this side. So that's why I put a little arrow there. But for the purposes on this blanket, most of my skin's blocked out at 12 wide by about 35 to 34 long. So like this row is 35, this row is 35, and this row I think is like 34. So, but you know, if the one skin was a little longer than the other after I laid these out, you trim them. So we're going to start joining these up. And when you join them up, what you do is you lay one skin next to the other, and on the fur side or the leather side, what you want to try to get is right here. You can see how the shoulder line comes, and then you see this little gold area right here. Well, that's what you want to match up, is this gold area just before it starts going down into the belly. So you're going to take skin 1 to lay skin 2 on top of it, so that when your leathers match up, you can see that hair change. See that? So you're going to lay this over, and you're going to put the other one on top. I'm just going to fold this so you get an idea. And you're going to lay this together so both of those areas line up real well. And that's where I like to start sewing. So I like to start sewing right here where this hair changes, and then I sew up to the neck. And then I sew from the rump, and I match my rumps at the bottom, and I sew from the bottom going up. I might do a tack in a certain spot in the middle, but I have these trimmed, so I start from that area right here, right behind the shoulder, and then what's going to happen is, you see your V pattern here? Your V pattern is going to match up pretty darn close because your shoulders match. Your shoulders going across, then your V is going to get pretty distinctive and be across. And so I start from right here, so up about maybe 2/3 of the way. Then I like to come back and start at the neck, or tack it at the neck, so I'm sure that I get my necks together. I don't like to have one longer than the other, because when I go to block this, it's just a headache. But yeah, it'll work out great. So when you sew your seams, you just got to tuck all your hair in. But these are great because there's no loose hair left in there. I've got it all brushed out. And, you know, it takes a little bit to brush it out. But that's a very important step on Coyote. So I'm going to show you how I tack this together on the fur machine. So I tacked my first tack I did up at the top, so my necks meet. Then I'm going to come across that shoulder line. You can see where those shoulders match up. Nice. I'm going to come here. I'm going to tack that. And then I'm going to go to, whoops. Then I'm going to go to the bottom and tack that. So as you sew this, you want to take your tool and you want to get all the hair going in the same direction down, and get it out of your seam. The machine that I'm using here is Bonis A16 model, and I've probably had this machine for about, I don't know, 25 years. So it's served me well. I also have a Bonis B machine that's for heavier weight leather on fur hides. I don't use that as much, but if I get something that's a little thicker, then I do use that. This particular machine has a clutch motor, which it came with, so it has the variation of you can start slow and then go faster, where a servo motor, once you go to step on the gas, it just sews in one tempo, which to me is kind of frustrating. But so I've got that joined up there. I'm going to come down here and I had tacked that in the center. These skins, even after they were blocked, still have a lot of stretch in them. So when you're sewing, you try to hold your goods straight, tuck your fur down in. The back wheel is the wheel that has the strength that's driven by the motor. The front wheel clamps against that, and it doesn't have any drive to the motor. So if you've got something that's a little bigger, you put that to the back wheel and let that hold in. You push your goods this way. If it's smaller, you push your goods this way. But the best thing to do is just have your tacks and hold it straight. Then you'll get just what you should. It'll feed nice, and you'll have a pretty even tension on your seam, and it's will finish down nicely. A lot of people use like binder clips and that type of stuff to hold their goods together, and that's fine. I know that for me it gets in the way. I don't like to particularly use it, but so now I'm coming down to the end by the rumps, and I'm just going to push this in. If I had the binder clips in there, probably it would go faster, but I just can't get used to those. So to me, this is the easiest way to go. Now, if this had, whoops, if this had cold tape on it, and this was the final sew, this would be a lot easier to manage, because that cold tape, when it's put on a seam edge, gives it a little bit of stability, so it's not as likely to roll when you're sewing. And so that cold tape works good, but I don't put it on until it's the finish project. Like if I was going to, I cut what I'm doing out first, and then I put that on if I'm not going to block it again. But this is getting blocked for a second time. So you just push your fur in, get your fur out of the way, and that's basically what it is. So I'm going to finish sewing that seam. I wanted to show you the difference on what it looks like on my B machine. So I'm going to go over to my B machine and show you what that would look like in a second. So here we have my servo motor, or my B machine with my servo motor. The thing that you're going to notice is that the machine's on and the motor is just like silent. So until you start sewing, then it'll go. You can hear it. But it's where the motor itself is really quiet. You're going to just hear the machine operating. So I have it set at a certain speed. I think it's 500 something or other. And so it's not going to go any faster than this. This is full speed. Where the other machine with the clutch motor has, you know, you can vary your speed on this. Once this machine is on and you push down, it sews. So it's similar to, well, I mean, you know, they're both fur machines. It's just a matter of what you're used to. I'm more used to the A machine, and this machine, a B machine, has a thicker groove to the wheel, so it is for heavier material. It has thicker needles, so you're not going to get a seam as tight, in my estimation, as you would with a machine. It is definitely for, you know, a certain type of goods, but this is the difference between the two of them. One sews, you know, heavier stuff, and one sews lighter weight stuff. Normally on a Coyote, I don't ever use a B machine unless I'm sewing the lining to the edge, because then I've got the thickness of the fabric plus the thickness of the fur. So this kind of gives you an idea of what a B machine does. You can still get, you know, a fine seam in there, but it's just a matter of, it's not going to be, I don't know, I just think the A machine is better for Coyote and Fox and Mink and just about everything. This might be easier for a beginner to get a B machine because it's got a thicker needle. They're not as easy to break. I got to skip there. So you just come back, pull your thread a little bit, release the little tension right there, and you're ready to go again. So that's the B machine. So here you have the seam sewn by the B machine, and here you have the seam sewn by the A machine. They look the same, but you've got to use a smaller needle. I mean, there's definitely a difference in the bite on this. This is the smallest, I think, that you can get in a B machine needle. It's a 16, where I'm using a 14 needle on up here. So yeah, that's the difference. So I have 4 rows joined up, and it's 3 rows deep and 4 rows across. So I just wanted to show you the leather side, and you can see the seams look wavy, which is fine because we're going to nail this out one more time. And that's what happens with I don't use cold tape until after I get it blocked out on the edge. So what you just need to do is just make sure that your you know, your points match when you're sewing. And we got that all set. So this is going to get wet again on the leather side, and then I'm going to nail it out again on the board. And my board is short, so I might have to nail this in 2 sections, but that'll be good. So it looks nice. You can see how my shoulders match going across, and it looks good. One thing I wanted to just show real quick was, usually when I join this up, I don't hit each cross seam exactly. I sew this row across, and this row I've got sewn across, but right here I purposely don't match those seams up because it's a little stronger and it's a little less bulky to sew over when you have that where the one seam is a little bit offset from the other. This is my second nailing on this section of the blanket. So I dampened the skins with a spray bottle, and I started on this corner, and my board is straight, so I nailed up about a third of the way to the first intersection where skin 1 joins skin 2, and then I came down and I nailed the bottom edge here over quite a ways. And then I continued nailing up the side from that intersection to the second intersection to the far corner. And I kind of rolled the goods. After it was damp, I kind of rolled the goods over on itself to keep it damp, and back this way on itself to keep it damp. You can use a plastic bag over it so it doesn't dry out if you're nailing, or, you know, even a shower curtain or tarp or something. But I didn't need to. I kind of worked fast on this. So my board is true. I know that's got a straight edge. So I nailed all the way up. Then after I got this side done, I worked the top over, and I think it looks pretty good. This edge is... So in doing this, I want to show you what I got. I actually got... I've got a little bit more width than 12, because here's my... From this edge to this edge is 12. And so I've got a little bit more width than 12 up at the top. And that basically carries through all the way down. And I've got that area I repaired is underneath here. You can see it. That's why I like using these plastic mats. You can see right through them. So here's the area I repaired right here. And the area I repaired right here. So I'm not using much of it actually, but I'm glad I did it. Now, if you had a pair of mitts or a hat pattern and you wanted to make sure that your mitt or hats fit on this, now this is the time that you lay your pattern out and get an idea. Either mark it on your paper beforehand, or you lay the paper pattern out on top to make sure that it fits, because once this dries, you're going to have to come back and either re-wet it if you're shy, or now is the time to loosen a staple and pull it a little tighter. But see how I'm over the edge here about 1/4 of an inch, maybe 1/2 an inch, not quite, on this side, and the same on the other side. So actually I got a little bit more width up here than I need, but maybe my other skin next to it is a little shallower. So I don't like to cut any of this off until I know what my layout is. And for layout, I number each one of my skins, usually down on the corner. And actually I did these, I think, up on the top. It doesn't matter. But I label them so I know which one goes where, and number them so I've got them in order. When I get this dry, I'm going to come back tomorrow and I'll use this same template and I'll lay it on here. And I'm going to mark my squaring line where I'm going to trim this, and we'll show you that next. But this will dry overnight. So I hope this gives you a good idea.